தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் TVI.
Good afternoon, dear viewers. Welcome to CrossRoads on TVI. I'm your host, Parthy Kandaval. On today's show, we chat with a new and popular Tamil movie reviewer, a new charity helping out the disadvantaged in the Vanni, and having a discussion on the recent spike in youth violence in Toronto. Have you ever been stuck over whether to watch a certain Tamil movie, didn't trust your friend's opinion, or too lazy to read the reviews on the net? Well, look no further. Our first guest has you covered. He goes by the name ReviewRaja and provides insightful video movie reviews. His first 5 videos have almost 200,000 views within a month. He has recently been featured in major Indian newspapers such as the New Indian Express, the Mumbai Mirror, and the Deccan Chronicle. The best part of it all is that he's a 24-year-old white guy from Belleville, Ontario. If you have a question or comment for ReviewRaja, please call us at 416-623-8100. Good afternoon, ReviewRaja. Thank you for coming on our show.
Anytime.
So to give our audience a quick synopsis of what you do, what is it that you provide your viewers?
So typically what I try and do is I wanted to explore Tamil cinema because about a year ago I was hanging out with a bunch of my Tamil buddies from university and work, and they turned on a movie called Villa, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's Ajith Kumar's famous film, and recently Villa 2 just came out, just in case you didn't see that, and I really did love the film, and I asked them, I can't believe how good this is, and they said, have you ever heard of Collywood? And I said, I have no idea Collywood ever existed. Growing up in Belleville, Ontario, where the population is about 98% Caucasian, you don't typically get this type of involvement with other cultures. So I...
Was Bollywood familiar though? Because that's very popular in our mainstream word.
So my father, he's been going to India 2 times a year for the past 10 years. So I always was familiar with Indian cinema and this type of thing. But the one that came to mind was always Bollywood. Bollywood. Everyone knows Bollywood. But I never knew Collywood existed. And I didn't think that was fair after seeing the first film I saw after how good it was. So then I went on the internet to look up some movie reviews one day and realized there was nothing that I could really take away online. I didn't really understand the language. So me and my buddies decided, you know what, let's start a movie review YouTube channel and create something different where people can get my point of view from a Canadian white guy. So you know, it's a bit different. It's a bit different view on things. So we wanted to excite the people about the movies and really try and bring Collywood to the same level as Bollywood, so that when people think when people think Indian cinema, they don't overlook Tamil cinema and they keep it on the same level.
So when you produce your reviews, what kind of content are you looking to convey to the audience?
Well, typically what sets us apart from other movie reviewers is I actually act out scenes from the films that I'm reviewing. So it makes it sort of interesting, whereas you get to see my point of view not only from what I have to say, but you get to see how I would act it out and what I saw when I watched the movies. So it's sort of cool.
And through your whole process of getting acquainted with Tamil cinema, what differences have you found with Hollywood and perhaps some similarities as well?
Well, you know, Hollywood, I find they make these stories they focus on the high life, the living in the mansions, getting the girl every time, you know, the things that not the average guy like you or myself can achieve. And I really wanted to show people that Collywood does that differently, where they're touching on issues that are happening currently in the society, and they really have a fun spin on it. It's exciting. And the biggest difference, which I love about Collywood, is when I go to the theater, to watch a Hollywood movie. People are telling me to be quiet when I'm whispering to my buddies. If I like something on the screen, I get excited. I can't jump up and cheer. But when I went to a Collywood film, everyone was jumping out of their seats. Popcorn was flying in the air. People were getting up and hugging each other. And I was like, I can get used to this. I really enjoy this. At any moment in time, I can jump out of my seat and I can cheer for my favorite actor on the screen.
Have you, from the Tamil movies you've seen, are there certain themes or virtues that Tamil cinema tends to cover?
Some of the main topics that I've seen in the films that I've been watching there's a lot of corruption in the films that they're trying to portray. So government corruption, especially in Savaji. I don't know if you've seen that film, but Rajinikanth is really trying to project that there's a lot of dirty money in Chennai, and he wants to take that and make it clean money by filtering it through the system to give back to the people, give education, make hospitals, these type of things. So he's really the boss in that movie. That's what they call him. So
with how many movies have you reviewed thus far?
I've reviewed 5 now.
And what's the reaction been like?
Everybody, I have gotten very few negative responses, but I will say that there have been people that think I'm a phony. They think I'm doing this for some hidden agenda reason. But in reality, I do have a goal now after I set out to do this with my friends, and it's to bring Tamil cinema to the world. Having said that, in Canada especially, no one really knows about it. So I want them to sort of see what I see, get excited about it, and it is working. I mean, my friends, my family, everyone wants to go see a Tamil movie with me now, just because of my reviews, whereas they had no idea about it beforehand. So.
And do you feel that it's working? What has the response been from India, Canada?
It's working 110%. I mean, just being able to be featured in these news articles is a bit mind-boggling to myself, and the people on my Facebook page, on YouTube, on Twitter are absolutely supportive. It's incredible. I really do feel like I've created these connections with people overseas, and I could almost be their friends already. I've never met them, but I would love to meet them eventually. So,
you know, some might say that by virtue of being a white guy, you may not have the same connection or may not understand all the nuances and contextual differences of some of these movies. How do you feel about that criticism by?
Well, you know, I will say some of the nuances in the speech and whatnot aren't clearly projected through the subtitles, because I rely on that. But that's why I have a bunch of my friends that help me with that as well. So if I didn't understand something in the film, they'll tell me what actually happened and how it translated differently, and from what I was reading to what actually was on the screen. So I have that type of help, which helps in the end.
Okay. And at this moment, we'll take a quick video clip of a clip from one of ReviewRaja's reviews to give you an idea of how he reviews a movie. Let's play the clip.
So by now you're probably wondering, should I go see this film? Well, based on my suggestions, I will tell you, Ajith did a killer job in his acting. The music score was absolutely amazing. The cinematography, probably the best I've ever seen. But if you're looking for a high quality, unique, and original story, you probably won't find it in this film. For my final verdict, I'd give Billet 2 a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And remember everyone, this is ReviewRaja certified.
Alright, so give our viewers a quick look into how you break down a movie. And in terms of your review process, what are the major criteria you're looking for in order to get a 5 out of 5?
Well, really, it boils down to the story and if the actors are convincing. So for Billet 2, what I looked at is the story was lacking in the sense I did feel that it copied Scarface a little bit. And actually, one of my fans on my Facebook page earlier in the week had mentioned to watch the trailer for Billet 2 and then to watch the trailer for Scarface. So I did that, and I actually watched Scarface the night before I went to see the movie.
Right.
And I was thinking about it the whole time throughout the film, and there was some pretty identical scenes. But having said that, Ajit Kumar, he absolutely killed this role. He was so convincing. I think he's one of the best. He's the best at what he does when it comes to gangster roles in Mangata and in Nimbila. Unbelievable. So it's sort of, that's why I gave it 3.5, because the story was lacking, but the cinematography, they used the Red Epic camera, so they were able to get some high quality, sort of innovative type technology that hasn't really been used in Tamil cinema before. So they were pushing the boundaries that way. So having said that, you know, 3.5 I thought was a bit justified in that sense.
And I think many would agree. I've heard similar reviews. One criticism, you know, of movies such as Billa 2, as you identified, is the reliance on copying themes or even storylines with Hollywood movies, such as, you know, Scarface in this case, and that criticism can be seen in other Tamil movies. However, their smaller independent Tamil movies have done very well. They've gone to Cannes film festivals such as Parathiviran, Kanjivaram, that have done very well and have very distinct, strong themes that connect, and are very powerful themes that connect with a lot of people. Can we expect ReviewRaja to review some of these off the beaten track kind of films?
Well,
Or
right now, with the amount of time and effort that I put into each and every video with my team, we really strive to up the ante per se on each video that we release. Through the production value, you know, we were trying to get some really cool scenes. Maybe in the future you might see a helicopter scene, don't know, but we're just trying to push the limits each and every time we do a release. So having said that, what we need to do is focus on the major releases that are coming out. So Visharubam, Mugamudi, Tupaki, all the major ones that are coming out in the next couple months. Those will be the important features that I'll be focusing on.
For the near future, the blockbusters, out of time constraints, that'll be your focus. Any plans to travel to Chennai, or?
I was actually talking about this with my father and my friends the other day. I was like, I really want to go over there and watch an opening release of a Kamal Haasan movie or a Rajani movie. I think that would be the most epic experience for me, because they are sort of the heroes I enjoy. And I think the whole experience, if it's as epic as it is here, times 1,000, I would imagine over there. And I think all the people that I've been able to connect with online, meeting them and all this type of thing, I think it would be the best experience ever. So I'm going to try and do that in the next couple of months. So they can expect that, hopefully.
Yeah, and I understand an actor retweeted you?
Yeah. So Jiva, he's actually in Nunben. I don't know if you've seen that film, but he was one of the main roles in that. He's been tweeting at me, as well as Venkat. So that's pretty cool, because he was the director for Mangata. And the fact that he's sort of saying my work's great and he's enjoying it and helping me out, it means a lot, and it's sort of a signal that I'm on the right path. And who knows, if I get lucky, maybe I could one day be in one of those films.
Or you can bring them here to Toronto.
Exactly, that would be
a very
interesting
large
too,
Tamil
right?
community here.
So,
if you know, if some people may be wondering, you know, Rajni or Kamal, it's a very standard question in Tamil cinema.
It's true. Well, I think it's too hard. So let me just start by saying, when I came into Tamil cinema about a year ago, I wasn't really aware of the whole hero situation where people choose their favorites. So I didn't have any biases going through the movies that I was watching. But what I do know is Kamal is always pushing the limits with trying to bring out issues that don't typically get talked about. So you can see that in Veeramundi, where he's trying to talk about the death penalty, these type of things. And Rajni, you can't ever say anything bad about the guy, because he's so epic in what he does and his tricks, and he just carries this aura that he's able to connect with people that are 5 years old right up to 75 years old, you know. Everyone has the same opinion and view of him, and I can really see how that projects through his videos.
All right. Well, for me, it's a no question, Kamal, hands down. But
we're all entitled to our opinions, right?
How has your family responded to this and the fame, I guess, success that you've been having on YouTube?
Well, it's interesting. My family, when I first told them what I was setting out to do, they were like, "What? why are you doing that? That's a bit far-fetched, isn't it? I don't understand. So they thought it was sort of funny at the beginning, but now they're like, wow, these videos you're making are unbelievable. I want to go see these movies with you too. And because they live in small cities, small towns, they're unable to actually get the chance to go and watch these films. So when they come to Toronto, next time I'm going to actually take them to go see their first Tamil movie, so I'm really excited about that. And I guarantee they will enjoy it.
If, you know, a lot of us within the community and, you know, avid Tamil movie watchers, we all have our criticisms of Tamil movies in general. Is there something that you've seen where the industry could improve on in terms of addressing certain issues, certain stories that are not covered?
Well, I think they need to continue to push the limit, like Kamal does with his they actually are very sensitive topics that he's talking about, and people aren't really able to, I guess, talk about them openly. It's sort of something people know is happening, especially in Tamil Nadu. The people realize it's there but don't want to touch on it. So I think keep pushing on those type of topics. Make more original content, as you touched on. Sometimes I do notice the storylines are a bit similar to movies that I have seen before in Hollywood. So keep the creative juices flowing per se, and really pushing the boundaries on the quality, the realness. And keep doing what they're doing, because I think they're on the right path, especially with Savaji coming out in 3D. I think they're starting to realize it's important that they sort of tap into these new technological advancements that we're seeing over here and bringing it there as well. So.
You know, on that note of Tamil cinema, a lot of the directors, producers, and music composers are, you know, have been contacted by Hollywood to do a lot of the work, and they're really blowing up. As an outsider, you know, when people think Indian cinema, they think Bollywood, you know, Mumbai, Bombay. As an outsider, what difference have you noticed between Tamil cinema and Hindi cinema?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I've never really tapped into Bollywood as much, but from what I have seen and what I understand of it, it's a bit like comparing. It's a bit like comparing Canadian film with American film. It gets overpowered and trumped by the Americans, and that's the same thing that I think's happening. Whereas people recognize Bollywood because it's commercial, it's flashy, there's ads everywhere. They're talking about the dream lifestyles. It's so built up. Whereas Tamil cinema, you know, it really has a focus on the culture, has the really unique cultural elements, talking about topics that are happening at the current time. But they're just as well done, you know. There are some similarities in storylines. As you know, Three Idiots is remixed with Nanban with the BJ and Jiva, but they're doing a good job, and I think that that's why my goal is really to bring Tamil cinema to the world, because that's the only thing that's lacking, is people aren't aware of what it is, and if they were, I think it could be on the same playing field, and people could really give it the respect it deserves. So.
All right, on that note, and our final note, how can our viewers see your work?
You can check me out at youtube.com/ReviewRaja. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/ReviewRaja, and Twitter, Movie Review Raja. And last but not least, my website's moviereviewraja.com.
All right. Thank you, Review Raja.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on our show.
Appreciate it.
It's time for a quick break. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, viewers. On our show today, we have Dr. Gerard Francis. He's one of the founders of a new charity that helps our people back home, NOWWOW, which stands for New Opportunities for the Wounded, Widowed, and Orphans of War. Dear viewers, please join our conversation by calling 416-623-8100. Welcome, Dr. Francis.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, making time to be on our show. As I understand, you've started, alongside 4 others, a new charity that helps the wounded, the orphan, and
The
widows in the Vanni area. And,
Yes.
So can you please tell us more?
Yeah, in the Vanni area, the north and east,
Okay.
the areas that were affected by this war.
Uh-huh.
As most of our viewers and everybody knows, that
Yeah.
there was great destruction of property and loss of lives over many years, but it all culminated in 2009. From January to May, in many estimates, it's like about 90,000 people, some say more than 100,000. The UN says around 40,000, so the numbers might vary, but everybody agrees that there was a great loss of life and limb, and the property was destroyed. Following which, large numbers of people, 300,000 people behind the barbed wire, the largest kind of concentration camps in the modern day world. Now they have been moved into different situations. The large camps are no longer there, but this population that has been affected by this terrible war, despite the rhetoric of the Sri Lankan government, which claims that the numbers were much smaller and that there is sufficient help for these people, we hear from all the organizations involved, the international organizations, the United Nations organizations, that the help is not reaching many people. So even though many people have questions, why are there so many organizations working with this group of people, and why do we need one more? That might be a question in many people's minds. And why do we need one more organization? I'd just like to tackle that question right from the beginning. The need is so great, and many people are falling through the cracks, that there was a need for us to start this new organization. The need mainly is to rehabilitate the people, and we focus on rehabilitation, the educational needs, the nutritional needs, because there are at-risk groups, pregnant mothers, young children, whose nutritional needs are not being met, nutritional needs, and also self-help programs where we like to help them start up small businesses. Also start up.
Is this using the micro credit loan
absolutely
model?
Yeah, absolutely, using that model, and also some of the other models that some of the local partners there might be using. We do have some local partners, we'll get to that. So we'll do that, and dairy farming or livestock or poultry farming. These are also projects that we are involved in. So there was this great need, and I would say that not just this organization, if there are other organizations that are going to start up in the future, there is plenty of space for work to be done. There's a huge need.
Naturally. So, have you been able to visit the affected areas yourself, or due to the nature of the scenario, it's hard to be on the ground? Have you been, or any of your members of your organization, been able to visit, or are you relying on trusted people on the ground?
We're actually working with local partners. For example, at this point, we signed a memorandum of understanding with CHCO, Caring Hands, that is registered in Sri Lanka. So we are partnering with their preferred partners. So we're partnering with them, and also in each of these regions. For example, in the Vanni region or in the Eastern Province Batticaloa region, the elected representatives, whoever the elected representatives are, say MP Sridharan in the Vanni region and MP Yogeshwaran. So they are the elected representatives of the people. So they are also facilitating to do the work, and a lot of work is being done through the Catholic Church too. So that's how we have people on the ground, through our partners and helpers.
As I understand, one of the biggest challenges facing our people in that area is the psychological damage that's been done because of not only because of the war, but also post-war realities. Can you please tell our audience some of the details of the psychological problem?
True. Now, this comes under my field, since I'm a psychiatrist, and I've been involved with this work for some time. And one of my interests is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, that might be seen in natural disasters, but in this case, specifically a long, drawn-out war, and at the very end, ending in a very catastrophic ending for large numbers of civilians as well. So that situation has created orphans, the ones that the target populations that we're working with, the orphans, the widows, and the wounded, who are directly affected and have lost limbs or lost their family members or have been orphaned. In addition to that, those losses, they have also been subjected to aerial bombardment, chemical weapons, and targeted shelling. So you have people who are unable to go to school because of nightmares, recurrent living those experiences, people who are unable to function very well, having nightmares, unable to sleep, and then people who have lost their loved ones, suffering from those losses in addition to this. So the losses have been so great and the trauma so profound that post-traumatic stress is quite prevalent. Even in the population that might superficially look like they're functioning, there is underlying post-traumatic stress, and the need for mental health services is immense. Unfortunately, some of the non-indigenous organizations that are trying to work with this population have language barriers. So you cannot really work with post-traumatic stress unless you can connect with the people with their language, on their cultural, social, and religious, with the same kind of understanding. You really can't deal with this fully. So that seems to be the biggest hurdle at this point.
Is the psychological
context,
problems. We actually have a caller on line 5. Sri Kumar? Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Sri Kumar. I would like to, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Gerard for doing this type of collecting money, fundraising for the affected people in Sri Lanka. But I am a little bit worried. What made it take so long after 3 years? Even the TNA has established, the election is finished. You have taken so long, whereas other establishment has already started, our organization has already started a long time before. And why was there a delay like this? And anyhow, it is good that late, but you are doing something sure. I am very happy to hear that you are collecting, but I want to know what are the other things you are doing for the affected people, because you are with the, you are really want to get our goal of Tamil, or just for with that TNA you are going to get the other solution which is acceptable.
Okay, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. So he's asking, having, this charity, as you said, it's a new one, and in the 3 years following the end of the war, there have been some confusion, or there have been things that are happening on the ground. So I think the caller's question is, why is this project, or what is the significance of being started now 3 years later?
Yeah, I think it's a valid question and it needs to be addressed. But leaving aside the political aspect of things, I just want to make it clear to the viewers that this is a humanitarian organization, humanitarian effort to target the population that has been affected by this war and that has ongoing issues. So that's what this organization is for. Unfortunately, many organizations had to start late due to the ground situation, as many of our viewers do understand. Working in this region, getting inroads to work with the population there has not been easy. It has not been easy to be able to work with the people. There have been roadblocks, and I think people can figure those things out, why there have been roadblocks, and the claims that there aren't as many people affected. And it was proven wrong. Even within the Mullawaikal area, the claim was that there were only about 10,000 people there, but eventually it was found out there were hundreds of thousands of people there. So intentionally the numbers have been downplayed. And so when another organization wants to step in and do some work, it has been difficult to open doors. So that's why the delay. Many people have been working, trying behind the scenes to do the work, sometimes not with registered organizations, but on an individual basis. For example, the 5 of us pooled our resources and various talents and resources to try and do this. But even before we formed the organization, we have been involved with this at various levels. So that's all I can say to address the viewer's question.
I understand there's been a recent project the organization NOWWOW has accomplished with using bicycles for students in need. Can you tell us about that project?
Sure. We have thousands of students who are unable to attend school because of the distances that they need to travel. So they are away from the school. The school itself is not functioning at optimum level, and as a teacher you'll understand how important it is to have a fully staffed school. The schools themselves are not
with regular attendance.
With regular attendance, and the school is not fully staffed with teachers, but even with the amount of staffing there, they are unable to get the students to come in. One, the students are forced to do other things to survive. They have to first have food on the table.
That's right.
So they will have to do some farming or selling some products. They have to do other things before they can do their educational part. That's one. But transportation is a big issue. So to address the transportation issue, easiest mode of transportation in that part of the world is a bicycle, and it's relatively easy to maintain, relatively inexpensive, but beyond the reach, yet beyond the reach of the population. It's so expensive there for people to be able to buy bicycles. So we started off a small project with 50 bicycles. You would have seen that in various news forums. The Tamil Canadian article, case in point, talked about this, and the local representative MP Sridharan was gracious enough to help with this and hand the bicycles over to the population. And right now we have other projects in the pipeline.
Are there other mechanisms how people can help besides making monetary donations or pledges? Are there other avenues people can help, volunteer opportunities?
Of course. This is a very good question, and many people have asked us this: is it only monetary help that we can provide? Certainly not. I would encourage people to go to our website and take a look at it. It's nowwow-us.org. So you can go to that website, take a look at what we are doing, and that'll give you some idea with what you can do. It has a site for contribution and stuff, but the main thing is we need volunteers. We need people who will be able to raise funds, who can be project managers, who can liaise with our local partners there, who can monitor the projects, because when we are doing some project, we want it monitored, and we want to be able to account for this, because the organization is registered in the US as a non-profit organization, and we want to be able to show how the funds are being used. We need people to monitor. We need people to help at various levels.
What's the importance or significance that our second generation, those of you who was either born or raised here, in going to the Northeast and having a connection, and not just for sightseeing or seeing family, but helping with some of the conditions our people are facing in the Northeast? Why is that important?
It is important beyond words, because sitting here and looking at websites or looking at some of the news items that are coming doesn't really give somebody who was not born and raised in that part of the world, who hasn't experienced the atrocities, the bombers overhead, the helicopters shooting at you, who hasn't experienced those situations, or the rapid movement from one place to the next, people being pushed out of one location, who hasn't experienced such a trauma to understand. They really can understand. So if people can go there, not only are they experiencing these things firsthand, it also brings or sheds light on the situation. There are people who are intentionally keeping this area dark. They really don't want overseas involvement, so to speak, and oversight over these things.
And if some of our second generation do go in their 20s, university students, what skills will they develop by spending time there in order for their own growth, their own development?
Okay.
What skills?
So if they do have the language skills already at some level, growing up here with parents who speak the language, they might have some language skills. So they are going to
practice their Tamil.
Yeah, they can practice their Tamil and also understand the nuances of the cultural context and the language and the dialects. They can understand that. But they'll also understand what suffering is. Living in the West, we might, on a full stomach, talk about suffering, and we can wax eloquent about it and have an abstract understanding of what suffering is like. But if you go down there, you'll see people who have lost their limbs, and families being the breadwinner is a woman, and the woman is forced into various activities that would have never been acceptable. Well, the fact is that many women have been forced into prostitution in a culture that was totally, I shouldn't say totally, but it was very, very minimal in this culture, and it was looked down upon. But now, due to the situation to feed their children, many women have been forced into prostitution. There's rampant rape going on. So these situations, if you go there, you will get familiarized with that and how to handle this, how to deal with this, how to counsel people. So counseling skills, which is needed, and the psychological skills are needed in any venture or sphere of influence. If you're in education, you need psychology. If you're in business, you need psychology. So you get those skills that can be then utilized in your other fields as well when you come back home.
Yeah, and I think certainly leadership skills and
Yes.
a lot of business leaders and leaders in general talk about the importance of empathy. I think that's certainly
Absolutely.
something you've touched upon. It's about time, but can you please leave our viewers with the information on how to contact your organization?
Yes, once again, the website is NOWWOW, NOWWOW, which stands for New Opportunities for Wounded, Widowed, and Orphans of War. So NOWWOW-US.org. Go to the website, you will have much information about this.
Right.
And thank you for interviewing me on this side.
Thank you, Dr. Francis, for making time. Dear
pleasure.
viewers, we'll be back after a short break. Welcome back, dear viewers. As many of you are aware, our city, Toronto, has seen a recent spike in violence over the last few weeks. To discuss this issue, we have NOWWOW Boakye-Yiadom, the director of Young and Potential Fathers Organization, which addresses the cycles of disengagement that affect our youth. Viewers, if you'd like to ask a question or share your thoughts on our city's recent increase in youth violence, please call us at 416-623-8100. We're very curious to hear your ideas and thoughts about this topic. Welcome, NOWWOW. Thank you for coming on to our show. And as we all know, these last few weeks, we've seen a few incidences. Members of our community and as well as the mainstream community have experienced some unfortunate violence, mainly with youth. I guess the question everyone talks about and debates is why? Why does this happen? From your experience?
That's a very big question to attempt to address, but it's a very crucial question. And I would say the youth violence are sort of the symptoms, just like the school dropouts and the domestic violence that goes on within our community. Those are the symptoms that we see of the major problem, and that can only be addressed when we ask the question, why? Why is it that just within the last couple of years, gun violence has gone up the roof? Why is it that school dropout rates have been unbelievably high among the African population? And when I say African, I mean people of African descent, people who have
and racialized minorities.
Racialized minorities. So that begs the question again, why? But I would say that it's a systemic issue. It is in deep within our system that minority people are disadvantaged. The system is not set up to support or encourage or enhance. And if you look at immigration, the black population or the African population have had a very weird or disadvantaged form of immigration coming into Canada. Majority of the time when immigration opened the doors for people of African descent to come in, it was more allowing for women who were coming in as domestic help and who were coming in and they were coming in with their children, which again made a lot of the young people grow up without fathers in the house. that is one of the symptoms for Canadians that can easily be identified. On a major groundbreaking level too, it's more of the lack of father involvement, not just on in terms of through immigration, but also in terms of a systemic disadvantage that has happened to the African population. Majority of the time, people of African descent who were of the Caribbeans are now trying to recoup their culture, regain their own identity and their own culture. So these are the major issues that have to be dealt with. So we have to look at this from a systemic perspective, and that's where the Young and Potential Fathers is working with to ensure that that disengagement that happened between child and father is subdued at an earlier age when it comes to young men who are now becoming fathers at a very early age.
So there's the disconnect of boys growing up without a father and finding that connection, that belonging in what people call gangs, in groups of other boys, and that leads to violence apparently. Some have connected this problem with our education system, and it doesn't address some of the learning styles of some of our children, and also it doesn't connect with the children in the sense that they don't find themselves represented or seen in the curriculum, or even there's a disconnect with the teachers. From your experience as a youth worker?
I would definitely say, and you being a teacher yourself, you would agree that the curriculum as it's designed is not for everybody. It's not designed or tailored for everyone's consumption at the same level, at the same rate. And rightly so. What has always been known is that people of African descent learn differently. We
not just African, but even different
cultures, different backgrounds, learn differently and grow differently. And some of the main things that you mentioned about the teachers are not highly representative of the African population, or so the young child does not see themselves, and in the school they don't feel as welcome. So the education system is playing a very big role in the lack of engagement of these young people. And it's not just the education system, it's our entire justice system, it's our entire social system, the social system that is built around the community, or our community is built around. The immediate response has been, let's increase the number of police on the streets right now, whereas there is a misnomer or misunderstanding between the youth and the police system already happening, and this is creating more of a distance between them.
On the subject of the police, one thing they've increased is funding for this program called TAVIS.
Yes.
What is your experience with it? Some people have praised for it, that it looks to create a connection with youth and the police. They use friendly gestures. There's basketball games with them. They give, and they find youth who are doing well or have improvements from their previous record. They give them basketball tickets and they try to create a connection. Is that a good first step?
TAVIS is a very difficult subject to talk about because it's new, and but always I look at it as a top-down approach to to that solution. It's coming from the police sector as our way of engaging the young people, and not necessarily coming from the young people as our way of engaging the police. The people who the police are currently engaging, I would say that are the people who nevertheless would have turned out good anyways. So I have mixed sentiments when it comes to the TAVIS program that the police is running right now. It's always a positive thing when the system recognizes that it's not working and attempts to do something about it. But I'm still of the opinion that in the attempt to do something about it, it has to be a consultation between the people on the ground, so
Okay.
the organizations working on the ground who are engaging these young people, and the police, instead of more of a top-down, foot-heavy approach.
What recommendations would you suggest that can perhaps create better connection?
There has to be, it's a systemic change.
Okay.
And that stems from, first of all, the education system, the understanding that for the longest while in Canada, the people of African descent and the minority have not had a positive experience with the police. So immediately it's not going to go
change
away.
overnight.
It's
It
not
has
going
to be a
change
gradual,
overnight. It has to be a gradual, consistent approach. They have to recognize that, you know what, I'm not just going to be pulled over because I look and I'm dressed this way. Right? Because it's an identity issue and it's a cultural issue. And once you pull me over because I dress and look this way, and you don't pull the next person over because they are dressed a similar way, but because they look different from me, they're not getting the same treatment, it becomes sort of difficult for the young people to then begin to trust you.
To trust.
Right?
I want to move into the role of faith and places of worship. You know, in the U.S., churches have been worked closely with government programs to help, you know, attract youth off the streets and into positive lifestyles. What's your take on that? Is that same dynamic possible here in Canada?
I personally know the provincial government has attempted to do this.
Okay.
But again, it was short-lived, and they gave many faith-based organizations funding to look into ways of preventing young people from falling through the cracks, ways of recouping. And the last time that the major gun violence happened in 2005, that was one of the approaches that the provincial government took. But from my knowledge, and I've kept myself in the loop with this, after the specific set amount of funding provided for churches to run programs and activities run out.
But are they? I guess the funding expired, right?
The funding expired.
But during that time,
during that time, I believe it was effective in that these churches are on the ground, and they're like the community-based organizations like myself, like the Young and Potential Fathers organization. They are initiatives. They are more on the ground, more with the people, understands the people better, and yes, it's not 100% culturally relevant, but they understand more and pay more attention to the culture than major organizations.
Do you think so? Is it safe to assume and safe to say that there's a strong relationship between one's faith, one's a relationship with God, and their behavior, and them choosing better, making better choices, making more positive choices? There's a relationship?
Yes, there is a relationship between one's faith and one's actions. There is also the reality of one's faith, one's actions being mirrored with one's culture. Right? So most of the time, your faith and your culture are to go hand in hand.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I would say, that yes, there is that note, but there's also that reality that it's not always the 100%.
All right.
Truth.
Unfortunately, that's the end of our show and the end of the segment. Thank you, Noah. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Taking the time to come on our show.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, thank you for tuning in to TVI's Crossroads. I'm your host, Parthi Kandaval, and have yourself a wonderful week.
தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.